Hey everyone, it's Theron and Miz, and today we are talking about family culture. So we're going to share some things with you today that hopefully will help you and your family, and let's get started.
Yeah. So the first thing is, what is culture, right? Culture is really the environment that we create by the values we embrace, we believe in, and we live by. So I really oftentimes think of culture as a current. So if you think of a river, and if you've ever stepped into a river that has a strong current, you know that it's really hard to resist the current and to stand, even sometimes to stand up in a current, right? And so if you step into a river that's flowing pretty strongly, it's hard to resist it. That's like a culture. A good culture that is strong is going to be when somebody steps into it, they can't stand against it, really.
So when we were first married, not too long after we were married, we went whitewater rafting. And we went to the Ohio Pile out in the Pittsburgh area, and we were going down this river, and we were youth leaders, so we had a bunch of kids with us on this raft. And we were heading down the river, and before we went, back up a little bit, they said, hey, listen, there's this place in the river that like you can't avoid. Everybody runs into this rock called Dimple Rock. And we're like, okay, all right. And they said, well, when you get to Dimple Rock, what you need to do is you need to kind of like lean into the rock, and then the river will hit there and then go down and around because the current is taking it, right? And so, and by the way, if you ever go whitewater rafting, hire a guide. You know, just spend the money, get a guide. It'll help you. You'll thank me later. And we did not. We're like, oh, we'll just save a couple bucks, and we got this, And so we're headed down the stream, and we're getting close to the rock, and I'm like, and I'm leading in the front. I'm like, all right, everybody, Dimple Rock is up here. Everybody paddle. And we're getting close to it, and as soon as we hit and the water was low at that point, so the rock was really big, and so we throw it broadside there, and what does everybody do? We all lean into the rock. Well, what happens when everyone leans into the rock is that, our boat flips, and I can still see it in slow motion, all the kids going like out of the raft, and I'm like, oh my gosh, like, what have I done? Like their parents, and then my wife, right? We're newly married. She's like falling out of it, and the only thing I can think in my mind, well, I'm saving my wife if I'm saving anybody. Like I'm saving her, so I like grab her, and I'm yelling at the top of my lungs, keep your feet up, keep your feet up. And so they do. Everyone survives. Good. This is a good ending to this. So everyone survives. And but if you've ever gone through rapids before, it's intense. And sometimes you're under the water, in the water, above the water, like hitting rocks. But and all this is happening. And but the point of the story is that like we couldn't avoid Dimple Rock. We couldn't paddle around it. The water was going. It was so strong. The current was so strong. It's going to hit the rock. And next time we go to Dimple Rock, we haven't been there in years, but we need to, hire a guide, put some helmets on, and make sure that we have helmets on. I'm like messing the story up. So anyway, that's the point of it is we couldn't avoid Dimple Rock. Right. Just like your family culture, is that it's a current. It flows in your house every day, whether you know it or not. And so part of us doing this is just helping you ask those questions as a family. Is what is our culture here? What is the current? So tell us a little bit more about
So if you think about river, one of the first verses I thought about was John 7:38, where Jesus is talking to his disciples, and he said, he who believes in me, and one version says, who adheres to, trusts in, and relies on me, as the scripture has said, from his innermost being will flow continually rivers of living water. And so when we're in the culture where Jesus is the center, and Jesus is who we rely on and trust in and adhere our lives to, then our lives will flow with that river of living water, that current, and then culture will come from. from our lives. So it's a strong and constant flow in our house, in our lives. And when you're in it, again, it's hard to resist. It's easier to go with the flow than to go against it. And that's what we're talking about today, setting that culture and that current in your home.
Trying to understand what is your flow, what is flowing in your house. So it's also, I'd say this is that the culture in your family, it's a weapon too. I love this quote by this bowyer. A bowyer is somebody that makes bows, and we love archery in our family. So he says that the grain of a bow, it flows like a river. You have to follow that grain faithfully, and if you don't, and he's talking about making a bow, okay? And here we talk about when we raise our children. Children are like arrows in the hands of a warrior, right? And so us as parents, we're like the one that holds the bow. We get to pull them back in life, and we get to shoot them out. And so as the bowyer's making the bow, he said, you have to follow the grain faithfully. Talking about current, right? The flow of something. Follow the grain faithfully, and if you don't, your bow might break. If you fail to follow the grain and violate the grain, you'll shorten the life of the weapon. And I felt like, man, that is so powerful. You talk about current, talk about the grain. There's a flow to it, and and if you violate that, you can shorten the life of the weapon. And so that's why it's so important to think about your culture. So we're going to share a few more things here about family culture, things for you to think about.
Yeah, so one thing that we want to communicate is that you as parents have the God-given authority in your home, and you establish that leadership. You are the leadership in your home, and you set that culture. And so sometimes we just go through life and we don't think about that. We don't assert ourselves as like, this is the place that
you're the guide on the raft.
Yeah. This is the place where you have authority and you can take the lead. And so what you need to think about is that the flow or the culture, the current starts from the top and goes down, right? So it starts from the head, which is the parents, father, mother. It flows down. And so you decide, you establish it. My mentor, when I was first having kids, she told me when you have the baby, like, your baby doesn't decide the schedule. You decide the schedule, and your baby fits into that, and your child fits into that. You don't let a child dictate how your flow of your house goes, how the culture in your house goes. And so if you don't actively create the culture or set the routine or set the habits or set, all those things, the values, then other things will come in and dictate the culture or decide who your kids are going to follow and who your kids are going to listen to. And so there's always someone or something leading, and you don't want it to be the wrong thing. You want it to be you, and then you are following Jesus. He's leading you, but then you're leading your kids and your family. So think about kids, and I was looking for verses in the Word that said, think about children, and they don't know what they're doing, right? Paul says, when I was a child, I spoke as a child, I understood as a child, I thought as a child. And then when he became a man, he would put away the childish things. There's a maturing that has to happen. So you can't let a child dictate how it's run in your house. Proverbs says foolishness is bound up in the heart of a child. It also says that a child left to himself will bring shame to his mother. But the other really cool thing in Proverbs, it says that if you train up a child in the way they should go, he or she should go, then when they're old, they won't depart from it. So we have that opportunity to train, to point, direct, guide, be the ones that lead our kids into the right culture and the right place.
So it starts at the top and it flows down. And so something to think about is what are you pouring, what are you allowing to be poured in the top that's coming into your home? So let's just talk some practical stuff here. So, think about who you are allowing to speak into your life. I'm not talking about your kids right now. I'm talking about you. Who are you allowing to speak into your life, right? Think about that. Maybe even write it down. Talk about that. Who are we allowing? Because you surround yourself with people. Who are you allowing to speak into your life? Could be great. Could be maybe you need to think about it. Right? I'm just thinking about this. What about what do you allow in from what do you listen to? Podcasts, music. What movies do you watch? Right? Like our eyes are. We have senses. We see. We hear. Right? Like. We take in stuff, and those are like seeds being planted, right? As they come in, and they will bear fruit somehow. There will be some sort of growth there. So you have to think about that. What's flowing in from the top, because it does come down, and it will come down to our children.
So one example of this in the Bible is in Psalm 133, and it's a visual of an oil being poured out over somebody's head down into the beard. In Psalm 133, it says, "Behold, how good and pleasant it is for brethren to dwell together in unity. It is like the precious oil upon the head, running down on the beard of Aaron, running down on the edge of his garments. It's like the dew of Hermon descending upon the mountain of Zion, for there the Lord commanded the blessing, life forevermore." So again, we're reiterating, it starts at the top. The culture, the flow, the current, it starts at the top and it flows down. And that gives you this visual of it really coming down from the head all the way down to the edge of the garment. And if you think about in your home, what's starting at the top? What are you allowing into your home, into your own life? And that's going to flow right out, right down.
That's good. Yeah. A lot of times as parents, we want to know, like, okay, what's influencing our kids? And we're looking at that, but then we forget what's influencing me, right? And so I guess that's the charge to you today. The question is for you to ask yourself, what's the flow in your house? What's it like? What's it like living in your house? What's the makeup? What's coming? Stuff flows through the current in a river. So what are those things that's flowing in your home? So think about that and let God speak to you about it. And really it might turn into a great conversation about the values that you hold as a family. And we'll talk about that in another video. But we hope that something that we said today helps you, and we'll see you next time.